Hello dear friends. In this session we are going to understand how to use Ajax with JSP. First we'll understand how to create a simple JSP page, how to access that JSP page from HTML form, and then how to display the data on JSP. Then we'll access the same JSP page using Ajax, that is asynchronous JavaScript and XML, without reloading the entire web page, entire JSP page. We are going to access that JSP page behind the scene from server, and we are going to update the part of your web page. So let's understand how to do it. So first we need to create a project in Eclipse. So here Eclipse Enterprise Edition is installed in this machine. So I'm going to create a new project from Eclipse. So for creating new project, you have to select the file, new and dynamic web project. Then you can specify the valid name for your project. I'm specifying here Ajax demo, Ajax JSP demo. I'm specifying the name to this project. Okay. So after that, you have to click on next, and then you have to click on finish. So here Ajax demo project file is added. So inside this you can create a simple HTML page. So what we'll do is we'll design a simple HTML page for getting a number, and we'll pass that number to JSP to display the table of that number. Suppose we enter the 5 from the HTML page, we want to display the table of 5 from JSP. So for that I'm going to add the simple HTML page for this. So I'm adding here new HTML. I'm giving the name to the HTML is get number, and I'm going to click on finish. So here is the simple JSP page, simple HTML page is added. So here I am specifying the heading, table demo. So I am giving the horizontal rule after this, and I am creating a simple form for getting the number, for displaying the table of that number. So form, I am specifying the form name as form 1, and inside the form and end form I am going to create the simple text box for getting the number, and in front of this message enter number I want to display the simple text box. For displaying the simple text box there is the input type text tag, and I'm specifying the name to this text as t1. Okay, now after that I want to create one button on the next line. So I'm specifying here br, and I'm adding the button here, input type equal to button, then specifying the value to this button as send data. Okay, and I'm specifying the on click event for this button as show table is the name of the function that I want to write. Okay, so inside this I want to add a JavaScript. Inside this script I have to create one function called show table. Okay, this will the function will be called when user click on the button. I am specifying here simple alert message to test whether the function is working or not. Okay, now let's test the application. Now I'm going to run this simple program. So here is the output of this application. I'm specifying here 5, and when I click on this send data, a message is appear here. Now I want to pass this number to JSP to get the table of 5 from JSP. So how to do it? So for that I need to add the JSP page here in this project. So I'm right clicking on the project and choosing the JSP file, and giving the name to the JSP file as display table. Okay, is the name of the JSP file that I want to add when the user click on this button. Okay, so here is the table. Here is the display table.jsp page. Inside this display table.jsp, first I need to read the data from user. So I am reading the data here. For that I am creating the variable integer number, and reading the data using the request object. Request.get parameter is the name of the function through which we can read the data. The data that we need to read is entered in T1. So I'm specifying here T1. Okay, and I need to convert this data to integer. So for that I need to typecast it. Integer dot parseInt is a function that we need to use to convert the data, convert the number into integer. After this I can write a simple loop here which travels from 1 to 10, and I'm simply specifying out.println is a function through which we can display the data, display the message on browser. So here I have declared integer I, initialize the value of I to 1, and specifying the loop which travels from 1 to 10, and I'm specifying here I into number is the logic that we have to implement for displaying the multiplication of the given number. Now first I will convert this button to submit. Okay, now again I'm going to save this application. Now we can see here when I enter 9, first I'm going to pass the data to JSP directly from this HTML page. So for that I'm specifying the action to this form, action equal to name of the JSP page that I want to display when user tap on this submit button. So JSP page that we are designing here is display table dot JSP. So this will be displayed when user click on this submit button. So I'm temporarily removing this on click show table. Now again I'm going to test for the output. So here is the number that I'm going to specify, and after submitting this the page will be displayed here, but there is some error in the page. Undefined for the type integer method parseInt, the name of the method parseInt is wrong. Now we can make it correct. So here I'm changing the method name parseInt parseInt. Okay, now I'm going to test for the output. Again, I'm going to run this same HTML page, passing the data. Now it gives me the table of 9. So I want to display this each value on a separate line. So for that I can specify, or I can add the break in between that. So I'm specifying here break. Okay, when I run this again, it will display me the proper output that is expected. So here I am specifying again the 9, and when I tap on this same data, it will show me the table of 9. So here this display table JSP page is loading. Entirely this page is loading, and a separate URL that will be accessed here. So instead of this separate URL, I want to display the table of 9 on the same page without reloading the page, without replacing the URL. I want to display the table of 9 or whatever the number that we specified here. We want to display the number, uh, we want to display the table of that number on the same page. So this we can achieve using asynchronous JavaScript and XML. So let's see how to do it. Now I need to modify the code accordingly. So instead of passing the action to this form, I'm temporarily removing this action, and again I'm specifying the type of button is button instead of submit, and then I'm specifying the on click event of this button and specifying the name of the function as show table. Now this show table function will be called when user tap on this same data button. Now inside this show table button, I have temporarily displayed this simple message. So instead of this message, first I will check whether this message is appearing or not. Now I am testing for the output, and when I specify the 9 and tap on this same data, it gives me the message button is clicked. Now inside this function I need to write such code that will be used to get the data from this text box, and will pass that data to this display table.jsp indirectly behind the scene without reloading the page. Here we want to update the part of the page. Whatever the data that is displayed, whatever the output that is displayed by this display table function, I want to display this output on this get number.html page. So for that, after this form, I am adding here a simple span tag. I am specifying the ID to this span as the data table. Okay, and inside this span and end span, I want to add the response that is received from this display table.jsp function. So now how to do it? So for doing this, first we need to take the reference of this XML HTTP response. What is needed is, first we need to read the data from the page. So here inside this get number function, I am writing the code like this. What is the code? First I need to take the data from form 1. Form 1 is designed here, and the name of the form 1 that is given is form 1, and inside this form 1 there is a text box called t1. I want to read the data from this text 1 when user tap on this same data button, because the show table function will be called here. So here I'm getting the data from this form. The name of the text box is T1, and from this T1 I'm getting the value here. And now I want to display the table. I want to pass this number, pass this value to this display table function. So for that I am specifying the URL here, display table dot JSP. Okay, and passing the number to this URL. Then for accessing this display table.jsp from the JavaScript, we need to create the object of this XML HTTP request class. Is a predefined class defined in Ajax. Once I create the object of this XML HTTP request, using this object, I will able to call the URL. So how can I call the URL? Using the open function, and by passing the method. Using that, I want to call that URL. A get is a method that I am using for accessing that URL. Either I can use get or post here, but here I am using here get. So using get method, I want to access this URL. URL is display table.jsp, and the third parameter is I want to access this page synchronously. So I am specifying here false. If I specify here true, we can access this page asynchronously. But first we'll see how to access the page synchronously. Then I'm sending the request. For sending the request to this server, I'm simply calling the same function, and after getting the response, I can directly get the response from JSP page, whatever the JSP page displays, all these things that I can access using this response text property of this request object. And what is the whatever the output of JSP will be displayed in this val variable. And now I'm adding this value of val variable to this I want data table. A span is created here, and to this inside this data table I want to display the output of JSP. So here I'm making a copy of this data table and specifying here data table dot inner html equal to val. So val is what? Is the entire value of JSP page. What is the whatever the output of JSP page will be available in this val variable. Now I'm displaying this val value of this val variable inside this spam tag using this inner HTML. Now we can see the output, how it looks like. Okay, now we'll test for the output. Again, I'm saving this project. After that, when I specify the number 9 and hit the tab, there is one error. An exception occurred parsing at line number 12. So here is the error that line number 12 integer dot okay t1 request dot get parameter t1. We'll check for the output. T1 is what? We are getting the data which is entered by user on this text box. So T1 is what? T1 is the data. So here we need to pass the data in T1. Okay. So now again we can test for the output. Now I am specifying the number 9 and getting the result here on the same page. I hope you understand. When I enter any number 6 and when I tap on this same data button, I will get the table of 6 on the same page without reloading the page. So URL is same. Behind the scene, the display table.jsp function is called, and the output of the display table.jsp function is passed to this same get number.html page, and this get number.html page is displaying the result of this JSP page inside the span tag. Okay, I hope you understand. In this way we can design a simple JSP page that will be accessed using Ajax. I hope you understand. Thank you.